Hey, thanks for watching. I've been noticing these upholstery covers for the bottom of your 3rd gen 4runner seats have really been coming down in price. I picked this one up for under 35 bucks. I see the same one right now is 29 bucks. So definitely coming down in price. The quality of this seems really good. So I went ahead and got one and installed it on my 4runner. So I kind of just wanted to do a quick video about that process. There were some differences between this and the OEM one. I did kind of fumble and made a mistake and had to go back and fix something, so I thought I'd just kind of show that as well in case somebody found that useful. But anyways, overall this is it's like a vinyl replacement cover for the leather, so but the quality of this is really nice, and there is a couple differences, and let me point out just a couple of them real quick just so you can see them. When you open it up, you'll notice that there's these blue strips on the inside. Now, the OEM one has the fabric folded over there, and it's a loop, so you can actually run a metal rod through there, and that's what you'll be using your hog ring pliers for and using some clips on. Now, these, if you look up close, it's not, the fabric's not folded over there. You can see that what it looks like they did was they have this blue plastic rod, and or they kind of folded it over and crimped it onto that fabric, and maybe it's done with like a heat crimp or something. It seems really sturdy, but I didn't see a way to put up that metal rod through these or anything, so what I ended up doing was going through and I kind of treated that blue plastic rod as my metal bar, and then used my hog ring pliers to kind of just go ahead and crimp down around that. So anyways, of course there's no instructions, so I just kind of made do with what I had. You know, here's the hog ring pliers. I'll go ahead and post a list here of kind of all the tools that I needed for this to get it done. So the main thing I had to buy was some hog ring pliers since I don't own any, and so I just picked some off Amazon, 17 bucks, and it came with some different size rings, and I ended up using those 3/4 inch rings. Then the rest of the stuff I just kind of already had in the toolbox, you know. I used, I think it was a 14mm socket, and then, you know, Phillips screwdriver and large pair of wire cutters to cut off the old hog rings, and I think I might have used needle nose at one point just to remove one, but I don't think that was really needed. Another thing that was kind of threw me for a loop, and I kind of make a mistake, and you'll see it in the video, but see, there's two ridges right here, two openings basically that you could shove your wire through that you end up using your hog ring pliers on. Now, I started out by putting it on this very outside one, and then later on I found out that it wasn't tight enough the way I was doing it, so I ended up pulling it out, which you can do later, and I ended up using it in that middle channel. So that worked better for me, and I think it looks good, and you can kind of see it at the end, because they didn't say where to put it. I just had a feeling if it depends on where you're going to crimp that hog ring. I didn't want to, of course, crimp it through that vinyl stuff, so I ended up folding it over like you see like this, and then I would crimp it on that middle channel, and it seemed to work out pretty good. But again, some of the other ones that you see online, they have just a single channel to put your wire in. Okay, now that I got that out of the way, I'll go ahead and just kind of show you the process I used. Of course, this is be careful, this is for entertainment only. I'm not responsible if you try to do this and, of course, damage your new seat or 4runner or anything. So you should probably wear gloves. They sent me gloves with these hog ring pliers. I don't think I wear them in the video, so but anyways, use all safety precautions, you know, eyeglasses and all that other stuff. And the metal on the bottom of the seats are really sharp and easy to cut yourself, and of course you could probably damage your seat. So anyways, of course, if you're trying this, if you don't feel comfortable, you should always seek out and just have a professional do it, and otherwise do it at your own risk, and hopefully you don't injure yourself or anybody. Okay, here is my really ratty passenger seat of my 4runner, and as you can see, it's got some holes in the leather. There's also some rips kind of where it's kind of separating, and you know, on the side it's kind of torn up a little bit. You can see kind of a rips in the middle, also on one of the seams in the back. Anyways, ready to be replaced. The driver's side looks even worse, and this is the passenger side, and that's one thing I want to mention is this seat cover I got was advertised for a driver's side seat. So it seems like this company I purchased it from, all they had were driver's side seats, and I just wanted to check to make sure it did fit on the passenger side. And it does look like it does, so it kind of ended up working out very well. So anyways, just want to mention that. So here's what you can see what the new one will look like put on it. And again, this was, they said, I think on the description was like, left-hand driver's side seat or something like that. But anyways, okay, I'll go ahead and get started. First, I'm going to take off the two Phillips head screws here, one for the seat recline handle and one for the this plastic cover. And yes, everything's really nasty and gross in here. It was funny how much stuff I found when pulling out under the seat and everything. So definitely needs a good cleaning, and there's lots of dust, and this thing probably hasn't been removed for 20 years or something. Just fast forward it to make it go a little bit faster, but these came out, the handle just pops off, and then have to remove the whole panel after that. Okay, now just to remove the side panel. First time I removed one of these, so I kind of pulled it out, pushed it forward a little bit, and came off pretty easy. Looking at the back, it looks like that clip might have got a little bit messed up, but it should still be fine. And there was a clip on the front where the seat kind of latches under that. That's really nasty underneath there. Definitely need to clean that. You can see on the front there, it kind of hooks on that, so you kind of would hook it on and slide it back. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and wipe this thing down just a little bit. I'll just use some Clorox wipes that I had handy. So now I'll get to the other side. Now this side's just kind of the same exact process. Two Phillips screws, get these removed, and then go ahead and remove the cover. So kind of same process. This one came off pretty easy. Kind of shift it forward because of that latch, and this one looks good. Next, I needed to remove two bolts on each side for the seat pan. So you need a 12mm socket, and there's your first bolt right there on this side. For that second one, you have to lift up a little bit here on the cushion. You can kind of see it there, that gold colored bolt. So anyways, 12mm socket, and get these removed. These were in pretty tight, but no problems getting them out once they break loose. Then switch over to the other side. As you can see here, it's kind of the same as on that other side. The cushion was covering up that one bolt a little bit, and you see this other bolt here in the back. So I'll just go ahead and do the same thing I did on the other side and undo them. So with the 4 bolts out, the seat pan just pretty much lifted out, so that was pretty nice. Makes it easy to work with. So pulled it out, and then of course found a little leftover present from, I think, my son, crammed in there. It looks like a little Master Chief. Probably been in there for years. I wonder if this was from like a Happy Meal or something. Maybe they had a Halo Happy Meals at one time. I don't know. But he's got lots of crud on him. So anyways, back to the chair. So now that I have the seat pan out, I'm just going to go ahead and set this aside and get started on putting the new cover on. After I do a little cleaning, of course. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and cut off all these hog rings. But you can kind of see at the bottom here, one of those springs is undone. Those big springs there on the side, and little wires that goes across. I'll go ahead and correct this as well too. I can just shove that on there and kind of pry that spring back on there. It'll kind of hold that in, and so I'll fix that. But for the most part, what I'm going to do is cut off these hog rings that kind of go all the way around the seat, kind of holding that cover onto that pan. Now this metal's really sharp, so I think cut my finger a little bit on one of those, kind of reaching under there a little bit later on, so kind of just keep that in mind. But you can see those hog rings, they're the wire that runs through there, and those hog rings are kind of holding the wire that's running through that material, which you'll see in a second. But anyways, go ahead and start cutting these. This is where a good pair of cutters comes in handy. These I think are about a 6-inch pair of cutters, and these rings cut pretty easy, so it wasn't really too hard to get them off. Some of them I had to cut it in a couple places to get a little bigger gap, but it was pretty much just run around this whole seat, snapping these off. and it went pretty good, as long as I just tried to get one side at a time. Sometimes where that ring overlaps and you got two pieces together, it gets a little bit hard to cut, but as long as you're just grabbing a single spot there, you can just kind of squeeze it. And of course I got my glasses on, so some of these were popping off and flying across the room. But anyways, I'll run through this kind of quick. Okay, now that I had all those hog rings cut, you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see right here, but there's a kind of a metal piece on the bottom. And kind of what I was talking about earlier, there's some metal pieces that we're going to have to cut some hog rings on in here. And some of these metal pieces are reused and some aren't with this new seat cover. So basically what I'm going to do is flip it over, kind of peel it back a little bit to where you can see where these extra hog rings are that we got to cut inside here. So here you can kind of see as I fold this up a little bit, you can see there's a hog ring right in there, kind of by my middle finger right there. So grab my cutters, and then you can peel it back a little bit. This will give you a better view. See how there's kind of a metal rod in there, and then there are these hog rings that are kind of holding that seat cover on. So before cutting those off, I'm gonna go ahead and take this bottom pan off, and then I think I'll be able to get to everything a little bit easier, and it'll be easier to remove maneuver around. So this just kind of pops off pretty easily. Just have to kind of unwrap the cover from around it, and I can kind of set this metal piece aside and then just work on the cushion itself. Okay, now with that set aside, you can kind of see as I kind of, let me just pull this cover back a little bit, and you can kind of see there will be an indent where each of these hog rings is, so it kind of makes it easier to find it. So here you can kind of see where it kind of has those little indents, like one right there, you know, and then like another one. And so basically you can kind of see those 4 indents right there. So basically I'll just reach in with my cutters and cut those off of that metal bar. That you can see that little metal bar that's kind of shoved through the seat cover. And I'll go ahead and cut all these hog rings, and this is kind of those metal bars that I was going to save for my new seat cover, because I assumed there'd be a slot to slide them in, but there's not. There's just that plastic piece, and so I'll end up just crimping to that plastic piece and seeing how that works. I really didn't see any other way to do it. So anyways, just go ahead and cut off all these hog rings. And I don't know if you need to see this. I could speed it up a little bit. It goes pretty fast. I may speed it up and kind of save a little time for you guys watching. So it goes pretty fast, and then just kind of did the same thing on the other side. You know, it's just kind of the exact same setup, just more little notches in there where I get my cutters in. And again, these cut pretty easy, so that was nice. They just kind of snap, and here's that metal bar, and you can kind of see how the seat cover has that fabric with that metal bar in it, and you just kind of crimp all that together. Now I actually checked these wire cutters I had. They're like about, from the tip to the end of the handle, like 7-inch cutters, so just so you kind of can know what size I'm using. And it's cutting pretty good with these. I had some smaller ones that the hog rings didn't quite cut as well, so these go pretty good. Here's that bar in there that's kind of folded into that fabric that was crimped down, so just some of these clips I have to cut twice. They just kind of still seem to be stuck holding that metal piece in, but basically once you get the clips off, it goes pretty good. Again, these are the cutters I use. They're like about 7-inch from tip to bottom, so you kind of see how, like, see that, I call it a C-ring, hog ring, kind of where I cut it, yeah, it's open, but it's still not enough to get through that wire. So I think I did use a pair of needle nose on that one to kind of just get it, or I cut it again to make it come off easier. But so then you can kind of see that where those come off, you can pull those wires out, and if you need to keep those wires for your new seat cover, if you have that type, mine did not, so I'm still saving them just in case I need them down the road for something. But now we just got to get the hog rings that are kind of in the middle, so when you fold it back, there's another wire that goes across the middle there. So kind of see it right here a little bit easier. So there's a couple hog rings in there, so I'll go ahead and get those clipped. So once you have those done, I mean, it's pretty easy. I pull out these metal rods. Some of them, like I say, these I don't use because I didn't have a slot to slide those in, and the one that's going across the middle seat of the seat there, I didn't use either. So anyways, like I said, I'm just gonna save those in case the new seat cover ends up having an issue, and I will post in the comments below if I do have any issues with this, and you know, if it splits on me or something, just so everybody can kind of know. But anyways, I removed these metal rods, and then there's also going to be one on the outside, so I'll kind of speed this up. And they all came out pretty easy. Now, when you get to this one up here in the back, this one I did end up using. And then there's also one, I'll go ahead and pull this out. It's pretty easy, just grab it. Get some of these rings. So there's one. And then there's also one that I use that's on around the very edge, and that's kind of, remember at the very beginning we clipped all those rings. That one I used as well, so I kind of just had to fish that out of the material there. And I'll speed this up so you don't have to watch that, but it's basically just pulling this out here. So once I fish that out of there, you know, this is just a long piece of metal. I'm sure you could probably come up with something of your own if you needed to, you know, if you didn't have this, but I got it saved for the new seat, so now I'll get ready for the new cover. Okay, now one thing I want to mention, I did get 3 sets of hog rings with my new hog ring pliers, and I ended up using the ones on the very right. That, you know, I kind of thought I'd be using kind of the middle size, but it ended up being the 3/4 inch on the very right is what I ended up using. And it was kind of nice because they kind of had a sharp end on it too, so it kind of punctures through the fabric. So anyways, if you haven't used hog ring pliers, it's pretty easy. You just shove them into your pliers and, you know, put it through whatever you want, and then you squeeze it and it kind of crimps around it. So seems like a fun and useful tool to have around. So I do want to show kind of this. I'm going to go ahead and shove that wire through the whole outside of this, and I ended up making a mistake, and I kind of shoved it through the outside portion. And here you kind of see where I'm doing it. I'm shoving it through that very outside portion. I came back at the end of this video and shoved it through the middle, so I'm just going to bypass this part so you don't have to watch it. Okay, I went ahead and fixed my little spring issue down here in the corner and fixed that little bar going across, so now that's being held on. I just kind of used a screwdriver and pried that down there. The springs are pretty tight, so be careful if you end up having to do something like that. And now I do have that outer wire in there, but of course that's going to be done last. I didn't have to put it in at this point because I ended up pulling it out later and adding it to that middle spot. But I'm going to go ahead and start crimping this middle one first, and then kind of work kind of opposite of the way I took it apart. So, you know, I put my metal seat pan back down there, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put my cover on, kind of fold it back a little bit here, and then do kind of crimp down that middle piece on the bar down there. And you can kind of see that again, I don't have a metal bar to go across there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to crimp around this blue thing, blue plastic, you know, run my hog ring pliers and kind of crimp in there and kind of just use that instead of that metal bar since I didn't have one. So I'll try to see if I can get you a good view in here as I do that. So here you can see that 3/4 inch hog ring. What I did is I kind of centered my seat, new seat cover on here to kind of make sure I get it in the right spot, and then I wanted to line up that metal bar down there with my blue plastic piece there, and then kind of get in there and kind of crimp that down so you can kind of see it in there. It went pretty good. I mean, it's crimped holding to the metal bar like I wanted to, so I'll try to get in there closer so you can see it. Seems like a pretty fun tool. I could probably use this on some other stuff as well. Anyway, so I'm do the same to the next side over here. And as you can see, I mean, once you get the hang of it, it goes pretty smooth. Kind of reach in there, make sure you get the metal bar and, in my case, the blue plastic in there. It seems to hold. So with the middle done, then it was basically do the same thing. I would just went through and crimp this blue plastic strip along with the bar down below. And here you can kind of see it. Once you get it crimped into there, move that foam down a little bit, you can kind of see it's the metal bar underneath and the hog ring above it. So working my way down each one of those notches. Then once I got this side done, it was just a matter of flip over to the other side and basically do the same thing on this side. Just add a hog ring for each one that I replaced earlier, tying down that blue strip to that metal bar. Okay, once that was done, it was just a matter of kind of folding the fabric down around that foam, and it's still kind of not fitting the best, so I kind of have to reach in here and kind of, you know, make some few adjustments in there on the foam to kind of line it up a little bit better. And the other thing was, when I was trying to figure out where to put that wire that goes all the way through here, and this is what I should have just waited till the very end to shove that in, but trying to figure out where it's going to be the tightest and work the best, and I kind of did it wrong going through that very outside one, so I'm going to go ahead and end up pulling this out and then putting it in the other slot, which wasn't that bad, because you can kind of see here the way I plan on folding it over, it just, well, I guess you probably can't see it, but it felt like the fabric or the vinyl or whatever was a little bit too loose, and it seemed like the best way to do it was not really like that, but kind of just run it through that middle channel and then fold it over. So I didn't show pulling it back out, but here it is. I'm going to go ahead and run it through this center channel, and I think this is going to give me a better fit, and this is kind of how I ended up doing it. It's a little bit of a pain to run this through here, because you got that bend there, so you got to kind of have to work it and shove it, and kind of like when one of your drawstrings gets lost in your shorts, and you're trying to work that around on a pair of sweats or something, but it didn't take too long, just took a few minutes to get that around there. So kind of at this point, I just kind of flipped it back over, kind of check the top, make sure everything looks like it's going to be pretty good fit wise, and then figure out how I'm going to do my hog rings on the back here. So on that back part, as I was kind of just folding up there, I do need to have that existing the piece I pulled out from the rear of the previous cover. So go ahead and do this, and unfortunately on this seat cover they did not put a slot in here to slide this through, so I'm just going to go ahead and use some scissors and kind of cut a notch in there. Here, let me adjust this down so you can see it better. But basically it's going to go across there, but it needs to be inside the fabric there, So, but there's no slot on either side, so I'll just cut that with a pair of scissors. Put a little notch in there, so you can see. I just pinched it a little bit, making sure that I was not gonna hit that outer material, so this wouldn't be visible. So I'm just cutting it on the inside, and just a small hole that I could shove this little rod through. And then now I can fold that up, and my hog ring can go through the material and that rod and kind of hold that rod there. It's going to hold everything tight. So I'll speed up this portion. I mean, you see me put these clips on already, so I get those 3 clips there. Next we'll start working on the rest of the sides, and this is where I'd ran that wire through in that middle channel. So now I'm going to kind of flip this over and just kind of, I mean, it seems like there's a few ways you could do this, but I'm just going to grab that middle channel and that outside channel part and crimp that onto the little area that it's supposed to be crimped on. So, and this seemed to give me a pretty tight fit, which it's, I don't know, seemed like it's going to work out the best for me. Your mileage may vary depending on how yours works out, but this is so far seeming pretty good for me. So I kind of did the front of the seat here first. You see I kind of messed up on a couple of them, so I had to kind of take it out. So I had to really make sure that, you know, I was getting it in to that area underneath where it attaches to. So here it was easier to just take my time, make sure, you know, when I'm lining up that clip that I get it all in that right area. So I'll speed this up again so you can see it. I kind of, as I was doing this, I'd keep flipping it back over and kind of making sure the material's kind of smoothed out and everything, and kind of show you what some of those clips look like on there, so you can kind of see where they go in there, and they're kind of grabbing onto that ring, and I got the wire in there in that middle channel. And so here, kind of go over, fold this one over, you know, and it is pretty snug and tight, so, you know, kind of hold it with one hand. And another thing I noticed is where the screw's going to go here, that's covered up, so I'll just have to cut a hole for those to get that back in there. So here it is. I just kind of sped it up, but I was kind of felt like I'm in the home stretch here, just crimping these down and almost done. So really not a hard process so far. You know, just taking your time and having the right tools for the jobs. I don't think you could do this without hog ring pliers. And had it done, and then here's kind of what it looks like so far. I mean, it kind of looks great, especially compared to how it looked before, and it looks even better in the truck right now. But next I had to just go ahead and mount it back onto the frame, which was pretty easy. So here's the part where you get to cut into your new seat cover. So this was kind of odd. It would have been nice if they already had a hole kind of in here for it, but I just grabbed an X-Acto knife that I had, one of the little cheap ones you can pick up at most auto parts stores, and I just kind of carved out a little hole, just a little bit bigger than probably the bolt would go through, just to make sure it was there. I tried to keep it kind of rounded. I was hoping I didn't want any tears, but it cut pretty easy. Here you can kind of see it. So I basically this is the same process I did on all four sides wherever that hole was needed. I probably could have just gone, you know, just made a smaller slit too, but then once these holes were done, it was just pretty much a matter of putting it back together, kind of reverse of how I took it apart. Putting it back together was pretty much, like I said, just reversal of taking it apart. You know, the 12mm bolts needed to go back in, and then I needed to put in those plastic side covers once that was done. One thing I do got to say, it's pretty greasy under here, so I did find that I kept getting smudges on my seat from a new seat cover, from kind of holding those rails and then reaching up to that seat cover. So, and honestly, the whole process, it went pretty fast. It probably has taken me longer to edit this video than it was to actually do the job. So that's pretty cool. I mean, definitely something that is good to do. Now, I will be doing the back seat covers soon, the tops, and my driver's seat as well. So anyways, this is just the bottom. I will be posting a video when I do the top back, if you want to see that. And I just want to say thanks for watching, and appreciate it. And you know, here's some pictures that turned out really good. And honestly, for, you know, $30 now, I mean, that's hard to beat. I mean, I've been living with these tears on the bottom of that for quite a while. So $30, I mean, it looks great. Color wise, yeah, it looks close. It looks like it may be a little bit lighter. Definitely not as shiny as that leather was, but that leather's been sitting there for years, you know. But I don't know. I think it's going to last. It feels like it's going to last, and I'll definitely post in the comments if there's any issues and I run into with, you know, the quality of it, if any seams tear or anything like that. So just to let you know. Anyways, thanks a lot. If you like it, I always appreciate a thumbs up, or I mean, if you like the content, a subscribe's always awesome. And feel free to leave comments below, and I'll try to answer any questions you might have about it. Anyways, thanks a lot. Have a good rest of your day.